Hi, thanks for joining me today. It is Friday, Fact Check Friday, and I've got a fantastic video for you today. First, I do want to say thank you. I know I haven't been around for a couple weeks, but I really appreciate all of the comments from my last video. You've all been really encouraging to me, and it means a lot to me. I do appreciate it, so thank you. But today, it is Fact Check Friday, and let's get to it. Today, I am going to teach you how to fact check your family and friends. Now, I know that politics is really crazy right now, and I have a lot to say about that, and you may have a lot to say about that to people that you care about, but it's important that you do it in the right way, because if you don't, you're just going to turn people off, they're not going to want to be around you, and they're not going to learn. And the goal here is to help people that you care about understand the world better or understand your point of view better. And so these are some tips that I've come up with in my own life that I think are very valuable on how you can fact check your family and friends. So the first step is someone in your family brings up a story about something, and you know that this story is nonsense. You know that it's BS. But you don't just want to call it out as BS. That doesn't work very well. So what I like to do is ask them, oh, what is your source for that? Where did you hear that? Did you hear that from a friend? You read it in a meme on Facebook? New York Times? Where was your source? And don't get defensive about it, and they shouldn't get defensive either. The point here is just to find out where they got this information. Oh, they heard it from their friend Brenda? Cool, okay. They read it in a newspaper? Fine. You just want to find out where they're getting their information. That's important. Now, the next thing to ask, and this can be a little tricky, but I think it's really important, is if they actually read the entire article, or did they just read the headline like everybody else? That's pretty much what most people do, right? 80, 90% of people only read the headlines. They don't actually read the whole story. And often the headline can be a bit hyperbolic. It can be exaggerated. They want you to click on it. And so what I have found works well is you can say, I know a lot of times I just read the headline. Did you read the headline or did you read the whole story? By giving them an out, by showing them that you don't always read the whole story, they can admit too that they didn't read the whole story. They just read the headline. That's important. What you're doing is you're chipping away, giving a little doubt. They started out that they were 100% sure about this story, and you're just going to take that down. Maybe now they're 95% sure about the story. It's a long game. That's what you're playing. You're not going for an instant win. This is a marathon. So asking them if they read the whole story is a great way to bring up a little doubt about what they're trying to tell you. Now, the next thing that you can do is, let's say the story is about, oh, can you believe this politician said this thing? Right? And you know what it's about, but ask them, what was the context of that quote? What was the context of that story? Because often the people don't even know what the context was. Was this something that they said directly into a microphone on live TV, or was this something that was recorded secretly, at a bachelor party or at their house when they didn't know anyone was recording it? Was this a secret recording? Were they aware of it? This context is really important, and maybe your family or friend doesn't know what the context is. This brings up a little more doubt. Now, and the next thing that's really important, this is very important, there are certain subjects that are taboo. They're toxic, they're out of bounds, and you need to know what they are for people in your family. Now, one example of this could be maybe there's a female in your life, and anytime that you talk about choice, pro-choice, pro-life, something like that, it never goes anywhere good. They just get real emotional and upset. If that's the case, if they bring that up, just avoid it. Just don't talk about it at all. Let it go. You're not going to get anywhere. So just know what those subjects are and stay away from them. Now, step 4. After you've developed some rapport with them, you're not criticizing them. You're not pointing at them, telling them that they're wrong, right? At this point, we're just asking questions. And it's gone really well. You've asked them some stories, what they read about it, where they heard this information, context. You can ask them if they'd be open to reading a different story about that subject. And whatever they say is okay. So you can say something like, oh, I read a different article and it had some different information. Would you be interested in that if I send it to you later, if I email it to you later? And if they say yes, that's fantastic. If they say no, then don't. Let it go. Drop it. But if they are open to that, this is where change really happens, because people don't say, oh, you make sense, so I'm totally wrong and you're totally right. That never happens. People change their minds often later when they think about it, when they're on their own. And so if you can send them an article from a source, hopefully, that they are okay with, and they read the whole article, they'll say, oh, wow, this is some different information that I didn't have before. Now I can change my mind about it. You've given them a reason to change their mind about it, and they're not defensive because they're not in front of you. This is later that they check that out. And they are going to appreciate that you didn't shove this in your face. This is just something that you're doing later. They can check it out when they're by themselves. And so I found this to be very effective if someone is open to it. Now, lastly, and this is a bonus, and you can't always do this, but sometimes you want to be like Columbo. Now, if you don't know Columbo, he was Detective Columbo, and there was a TV series. The first one was 1971 to 78, and then they brought it back 89 to 2003. And Peter Falk played this detective where he was a real schlub, and he had a wrinkled rain jacket. He had a glass eye kind of looking to the side, which was always interesting. But he knew the guy was the killer, but he wouldn't let on that he knew. And he would just kind of let them open up and talk about it. And at the very end, he'd be walking away, and he would stop, and he would pause, and he'd say, by the way, and then he'd hit him with a question. And perhaps in the story that you're fact-checking, there's an appropriate question that you can ask them. Now, if you ask them this at the very beginning, they're too defensive about it and they don't want to hear it. But if you've had a nice couple-minute conversation where you haven't judged them, you've just asked them their opinion and what they think about it, now they're open to this. Once they're open to this, you can just at the very end of the conversation give them a, by the way, how did this happen? What did this happen? Why would he do that? You can hit that with them at the very end in a Columbo fashion. You're not always going to be able to do that, but if you can, it is very, very effective and persuasive. I do want to say that if you were able to learn how to fact check your friends and family and do this effectively, you will be much more persuasive, and you're going to be a lot more likable to the people in your life. And hopefully they will be able to talk about these things with you and you don't just turn them off. I appreciate you watching this video all the way to the end. Do me a favor. I really appreciate if you hit that like button, share this video with someone, perhaps someone in your family, and leave me a comment. Hope you have an awesome weekend. Peace.